Let's change gears now a little bit and say hello to David Cutcliffe, who is in a suit. It's not a coaching shirt here, Matt. David is in a suit. He's part of the SEC staff now. Longtime coach, of course, at Ole Miss and Duke, and assistant before that. How are you? Good to see you.
I am good. I told Lane Kiffin earlier, I said, you gave me some hope, man, coming out without a tie. But the SEC, it's always been coat and tie.
That's right.
And so I wasn't going to break that. And I am smart. You see the color?
Yeah.
I'm for 14 teams,
There
and so
you go.
I just came in with green.
There's very neutral, very neutral.
Yeah,
You thought about that too, didn't you?
I did think about it. I mean, you got to think about the little things,
That's right. Hey, David, what's the transition like? All you've done is coach since we've known you, and now you're in a front office, and you're a liaison. For people that don't know, David's a liaison with the coaches, a football position in the SEC commissioner's office. What's it been like?
Well, I told the commissioner when I made the decision to do this that I could only think like a coach and be an advocate of coaches. I'm going to listen to administrators. I'm going to try to be fair.
Right.
But I don't want to think like an administrator. In my opinion, in the NCAA governance circumstance, and I've dealt with it, I've served on so many committees, the higher up you go on the decision-making chain, the further you get away from anybody that's ever even thought about coaching. So the perspective that we can give them, listening to coaches, listening to our coaches within our conference, but also listen to coaches around the country. I've been in part of some national meetings that are really important about this transition we're going through in college football. And so as long as I feel like I'm representing our great profession, then I feel good. And the profession has to still be about development of young people. Before we're finished, I'm going to give you all a little history lesson of the word coach.
Okay.
If you're interested. Now,
Absolutely.
you can go to the next question. We'll come back.
Okay. No, I want to. I would.
You want to hear it?
Absolutely,
let's hear
I want to
it.
hear it right now.
Okay.
I've heard this story, by the way. It's
I
a
want to
great
hear it.
story.
I have not heard it.
It's true.
Oh, yeah.
So I like to research words, and I came across the fact that coach was first, before it became English as a word in its meaning, was koski, which was a Hungarian word, which was a place where these wagons with four wheels were made, and they were a koski. And as it became English, it became a coach. Okay, and so what people did to get in a coach, you were at a place and you were seeking a desired destination. So a coach's job, pulled by a horse, was to take you from here to where you wanted to be. As this word evolved in English, people started using that for a mentor, if you will. And I tell coaches all over the country, if you forget what the title really means, that your responsibility, I got a lot of championship rings, but that's not my responsibility alone at all.
Yeah.
It's to take young people where they need to be successful. So it's a great word,
It's a
great title.
great story.
And I hope that I love the fact that I believe we have 14 coaches in this league that are living that.
Yeah.
Even in the most competitive, vicious environment you could be in college football.
Right.
But I've gone and sat down with all of them individually, and we talk about these things. And, that part of it is rewarding to me as a coach.
Great stuff.
It's a tough time for all of us.
So, David, it's funny that you brought that up because you are very well respected in the coaching fraternity. You are probably the most liked coach ever, actually, and a very highly regarded quarterback coach. Now, quarterback is everything now, college level, pro level, high school level, everywhere. How do we get to the point where it's such a quarterback-centric sport, and where do you see it moving forward?
Yeah, I think the onset of 7-on-7 football. Okay, to give you a little history, that 7-on-7 drill was a minuscule part of practice. Okay, you took the snap, you threw the ball against a skeleton defense. There's no line, there's no rush. I never really loved it, but it is living as its own animal. And so to be successful, you kind of have to have these quarterbacks that just chunk it everywhere. And so that transition into what we're seeing today defensively, we're in the gun for protection purposes. People wonder, well, why are you in the shotgun? Well, you letter gaps, like you got a center. Both sides of the center are A gaps. The gap between the guards and the tackles is a B, and outside of that is a C. So when you identify gap defenses, that's how you identify them. Well, when you get a center covered and two guards covered and two A gaps, if you're under the center, you're sacked. So as defenses grew into zone blitz and linebackers ran 4-4 instead of 4-8,
right,
we had no choice but to get the quarterback back here and figure out how to run. And we're still running the option a little bit.
Right.
So it's fun to watch the transition. But in the process, that quarterback is making RPO reads.
Yeah.
Right.
He's making option reads. He's making passing game reads. He's better protected than he's ever been. So the passing game is where more explosives live. So that's why you're seeing the value placed on the quarterback position. Now, the danger of that is when young quarterbacks start thinking it's a statistical game. No, it's not. There's only one stat in football that matters. I've always told staff this and team. PPG, points per game.
Yeah.
Well, the rest of that, any statistics that's important should support points per game both ways, either preventing them or getting them.
right.
And so what I see a lot of are quarterbacks with some numbers that aren't necessarily being a great teammate or winning games. And when we are highlighting 15-year-olds to the level we are, maybe that's not so good for them.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm
totally
saying?
I do, because I get it.
So I went to a couple 7-on-7 tournaments just to observe now that I can. Yeah. And it's totally just about, a matchup at receiver and the quarterback.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, with what's happened to defenses, and that's what you're looking for, is it is a little bit more like basketball in a matchup game. Try to create matchups and have a guy that can get it to them.
You said something interesting about the quarterback's mindset and what he thinks is important. You coached the Mannings, coached both. Coach, obviously, Peyton is a coordinator, and you're Eli's head coach. And they seem to be, because we have a guy, Trevor Lawrence, that we think is a special person too. They seem to be special people. I mean, they're both 6'5" and rifle arms and all that. I know that. But I get them. Tell me about the Mannings. It seems like they're special people well beyond the football skill set.
Well, there's no question that Archie and Olivia have instilled in all of their children. Cooper, Peyton, and Eli have value system.
Yeah.
One of the things that, I don't care if it's the NFL, one of the things I've always, and it was interesting coming from them, I've always asked players to write down their top 10 values. Okay, and a lot of them wonder, what is a value? It's not, morals can be one of your values. But what a value is what's really important to you. If some of them were truthful, that cell phone would be high on the list.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think the Mannings, I couldn't tell you verbatim, but it was, friendships and relationships and team success and all the right things. And certainly I think Trevor Lawrence appears to me to be that type of person. Playing quarterback is much more difficult than people think, to go from this level to this level. I call it Olivia Manning, and I'm going to tell you, I name everything as a coach. So I name drills and corrections. If a quarterback hears me holler Drew Brees at him, I don't have to give a dissertation. He knows that I think he should have laid the ball off. Get it out of your hand.
Right.
But Olivia Manning is this. I hope, Olivia, if you hear this, you don't mind. When we signed Peyton in that great Southern drawl, she said, because she saw Archie's pro career, with the Saints, wasn't pretty.
Right.
She said, David, do me one favor. Keep Peyton's uniform clean. I Yes, ma'am. So that meant 2.8, 2.9, balls out of it.
Right.
And, the way you go about that in the National Football League, and it's why it separates, is I've always used this term. I teach pre-snap reads, post-snap, that ball's in the air, or nowadays, or you're under the center. Pre-snap, post-snap, alarm. And you have to practice that tempo and understand it. So if I say 1,001, 1,002, 1,000, ball.
Right.
I know when it should come out. And I don't care whether it's a 7-on-7 drill or a team period or routes versus air. Yeah. The timing is Olivia Manning.
That's funny.
Make decisions, get it out of your hand, and you will be more successful than not. I love Malcolm Gladwell as an author, and he's got a book called Blink I would recommend you read. And many of our decisions are overthought and end up wrong when your blink decision all along has been the right one. Right. So I've always tried to train quarterbacks with pre-snap, post-snap, alarm. That blink decision, make it work. And so I would love to see more pro quarterbacks approach it that way. Now, when you have the ability to scramble, that alarm may be moved.
Right.
Tom Brady even does it.
Right.
But you better know when that alarm is. You stay in that pocket too long, you're going to see those fumbles occur. You got these guys that have been working out for 15 years, raking your arm, and I'm gonna hold on to it.
Right.
Not gonna happen. So anyway, that's
David,
football.
You coached against Trevor Lawrence at Duke. Were you surprised at his struggles in year one?
Well, not really, because I think that there's a circumstance for any player that transition can be hard, and when you're in a circumstance where I think alignment of staff. I think the NFL Players Association has made it harder for young players because they don't get the time that they need with teammates. That's kind of a role that I did for Peyton and Eli, was that we brought all of their receivers in to Duke or wherever I was, and we would work on their system. I wouldn't coach them to do anything different than their staffs, but they were going to get the ball out on time. Those receivers, I had troubles at times with them telling them, okay, you're here. Okay, I'm not going to hurt you, but you're going to run every route full speed, or either we're practicing a mistake. Do you understand? And they clicked. And I said, this is free time for me.
Right. Yeah.
My time's valuable. Either do it or go home.
Right.
And that's kind of how we went about it. But
so you actually got like the Giants receivers,
all
the Colts receivers. They came to Duke or wherever.
Yes.
And that's really cool. I didn't know that. Under your tutelage, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun, but like I said, the intensity of what they wanted, and they knew what kind of intensity the receivers were going to see. I developed the great Demaryius Thomas, may he rest in peace, was one of the most fun guys to work with, and he was a sponge because he had played in an option offense. Paul Johnson's a great coach, but
that's right.
But you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And Dallas Clark was one of my all-time favorites. Brandon Stokely.
Okay.
I mean, through a lot of years of these guys, and I've remained close with them. It's a lot of fun to get better, don't you think?
Yeah. Peyton and Brandon are still like really close.
Oh,
right?
yeah. They're in Denver together, and I don't trust either one of them when they're together. Okay, you understand that?
I do.
David, have you ever thought about coaching the NFL?
Yeah, I've given it. I've actually gone on a couple of real serious interviews, and I'm a people person. I would never tell you who, but both of them were offensive coordinator jobs where the head coach wasn't involved. And then even actually had an owner tell me, well, we're hiring you to be the next head coach. I go, well, you're a loyal guy.
Yeah, right.
Really? Okay, and no thank you, you know.
Right.
Oh, how much money will it take? I said no thank you.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I just never found what I would call the right fit. And I considered it strongly this time around. But again, it's people. You know, I got friends in the league that I respect, and working with them would be something to consider. But, it's just got to be the right situation. And I'm way too far down the road to be an analyst.
Yeah, I hear you.
What the heck is that?
David, final question for you. For us that covered it, I think for me, for sure, the Florida-Tennessee football series in the 90s was one of the most magnificent things I ever – and I saw it every year. I was worked on the Gator Network forever. It was – of all the series, that thing was – my God, the Spurrier, Johnny, then Spurrier, Fulmer, all. What was it like?
My palms are sweaty.
I know, just think about it. But wasn't it the greatest?
Yes.
It the greatest?
Listen, I have been coaching in the swamp. Andy Kelly was our quarterback, going to Coach Majors. We're under the center at that time. And the center couldn't hear the cadence.
Center. The 91 game?
Yeah.
And I've said this on the air, so I'm not saying it just because you said this. It's when Larry Kennedy intercepted the pass.
Right.
God is my witness. It's the loudest I've ever heard a football stadium. It really is.
Yeah, and it hurt because I had recruited Larry Kennedy to open the sign.
But that moment was the loudest I ever heard in the swamp.
Yeah, and my brother played with Steve at Florida. I'll tell you how intense it was. Even then, my wife would get so angry with him, he'd have his Florida hat on at the game. But And Steve Spurrier is as good a football coach as there will ever be offensively, or maybe period.
Yeah.
And he was a smart aleck, to use a nice word. You can't spell citrus without UT.
Yeah, that's part of it.
And so he turned up the heat to it, but it also elevated our standard at Tennessee.
Okay.
And it led to a national championship at Tennessee.
Right.
So he would hate, and I had his grandson at Duke, Gavin, who's going to be a great coach, by the way.
Right.
Great one. Love him.
Okay.
I mean, I could spend every day with Gavin Spurrier, but I'm going to gig Steve even more. Thanks for the national championship.
That's exactly right. David Cutcliffe with the SEC staff. Man, it's great catching up with you. Thanks for spending some time. We appreciate it.
All
Thank you, David. Good having you.
Back in a moment on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.